Welcome to E-Bits.
Welcome to Engineering 4.0.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Wynand Steyn. I am the chair of the School of Engineering at the University of Pretoria, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this virtual discovery event hosted at Engineering 4.0 on the University of Pretoria campus this morning. So firstly, I would like to start off and welcome and introduce our VC and principal, Prof. Tavani Kupe, to provide us with the introductory notes. Prof. Kupe, please.
Thank you, Prof. Steyn. Good morning to Ms. Lehlonolo Pitze, Acting CEO of the South African National Roads Agency. We all know it popularly as SANRAL. Mr. Tulani Dlamini, CEO of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. We all know it as CSIR. Professor Sunil Maharaj, Acting Vice Principal, Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Education. Members of the panel, Professor Wynand Steyn, Head of Department of Civil Engineering, Engineering 4.0, and Chairperson of the School of Engineering. Faculty and members of the Academy, members of the media, and everyone attending this special event online, hosted by the University of Pretoria, SANRAL, and CSIR. A very warm welcome. South Africa is ranked 18th in the world in terms of the longest paved roads. By paved, we mean bitumen, surfaced, and concrete roads. We currently have 158,000 kilometers of paved roads and a total network of both paved and gravel roads of 750,000 kilometers. That's about 750,000 kilometers. Roads are the world's arteries for people's livelihoods and quality of life. They connect us to social, economic, commercial, healthcare, and all other opportunities that enable us to function, develop, and thrive. This gives some insight into the importance of teaching and learning, research and planning, design and engineering in road pavement engineering, as it is called, as well as in road use, traffic flow, transport, and 4IR smart transport systems. Now and into the future, when hybrid, electric, and autonomous vehicles will significantly increase. We constantly need to think ahead and work out how to integrate transport and smart transport systems is key to South Africa's growth and infrastructure development. To achieve this requires training facilities and independent testing laboratories, of which South Africa faces a dire shortage. To address this, UP formed a partnership with SANRAL and the CSIR Smart Mobility Cluster to establish a new integrated education, certification, reference, and research facility in the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment, and Information Technology. We call the facility Engineering 4.0, and it was completed in February 2020, we just beat COVID. Engineering 4.0 is a hub for smart cities and transport for economic development in a world that is being continuously disrupted by new digital technologies. We harness all of the technologies associated with the fourth industrial revolution, that is 3D printing, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, as well as focus a range of civil engineering skills, digital technology, and data sciences. South Africa has a critical shortage of these skills. We have 1 engineer per 3,200 people, compared to 1 engineer per 130 to 450 people in Europe, North America, India, and China. We are using the latest innovative technologies for research, testing, and training in everything from road surfaces to testing smart cars and smart public transport systems that facilitate mobility in rapidly urbanizing environments. Our facilities present a unique physical space to foster and accelerate the adoption of disruptive technology, big data analytics, and rapidly evolving research methodologies to test and analyze how different road surfaces and materials perform, how traffic moves on highways, the density and type of traffic at any given time, emissions testing, and air quality monitoring as part of environmental sustainability in line with our commitment to delivering and to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Engineering 4.0's main anchor is our Department of Civil Engineering, and our other engineering departments are also involved. As head of the Department of Civil Engineering and Engineering 4.0, Prof. Stein, sitting with me here, says, quote, "In order to work towards smart cities, we need to develop researchers with advanced skills in robotics, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and satellite technology, combined with the traditional advanced understandings of materials. This will further develop these skills and innovations required to design, construct, maintain, and rehabilitate the extensive roads network in South Africa." Unquote. There's a huge shortage of civil engineers in our country, and UP's Department of Civil Engineering makes a critical contribution to the knowledge economy by producing a significant number of civil engineers. I think we're one of the largest producers of civil engineers, if not the largest, in South Africa. Our civil engineering department has produced about 40% of all civil engineers in South Africa over the past 65 years. Many have made contributions to development and wealth creation in South Africa. Currently, the department has 200 students enrolled in the Bachelor of Engineering Honors, Master of Engineering, and PhD degree programs, comprised of a diverse student body from Africa, the SADC countries, that is our neighborhood, and beyond in the rest of our continent. UP's Bachelor of Engineering civil degree is recognized within and outside of South Africa. In other words, it's internationally recognized. And our graduates are highly sought after. Engineering 4.0, where we're sitting right now, those of us who are here in person, serves as a laboratory for the training and certification of civil engineering students and laboratory technicians for the transportation engineering sector. Students are exposed to hands-on research and virtual reality activities in the training laboratories. The collaborative teaching and learning and research and innovation conducted between UP, SANRAL, and CSIR enhances the quality of training and overcomes costly and unnecessary duplication of laboratory facilities. So, Engineering 4.0 Hub includes the following: the SANRAL National Road Materials Reference Library, which will serve as a proficiency testing laboratory; the SANRAL Training Laboratory, which comprises 20 dedicated stations for the training of civil engineering laboratory technicians; the Civil Engineering Concrete Research Laboratory; a dedicated accelerated pavement testing track and a dedicated active traffic lane on the N4 adjacent to the facility. NR 4.0 will contribute to an increase in master's and PhD engineering graduates focusing on innovative solutions for the transport sector, to be taken up by government, SANRAL, and the broader industry. It includes collaborative research in the field of smart cities and smart transportation, and links the faculty's vast resources in technology and data sciences to other faculties at UP, what we call an interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary approach. Engineering 4.0 Smart Cities research includes teams from different disciplines, including social and environmental scientists, economists, material scientists, chemists, urban planners, architects, and lawyers. It includes active participation in UP's Hatfield Precinct Digital Twin project that is driven by the Department of Architecture and focusing on continuously monitoring, understanding, and improving holistic issues in a typical urban environment. In South Africa and globally, we need to redesign and integrate living spaces and urban planning so that people can live closer to work, reduce transport expenses, take the pressure off the roads, and lead more affordable, environmentally conscious lives. The Engineering 4.0 Hub also includes the Railway Safety Regulator Chair in Railway Safety, headed by Professor Hans Grab. The chair's research focus includes improving vehicle track dynamics, ride quality, the design life of the infrastructure, and the development of sophisticated Internet of Things devices for railway applications. Its flagship research project, as a part of the National Equipment Program of the National Research Foundation, is the instrumenting of a road rail track that can travel on both road and rail infrastructure for collection of real-time data regarding track conditions and operations. Engineering 4.0's location on the Innovation Africa campus, our latest addition to facilities and spaces and platforms for research in close proximity to our Future Africa complex, was very deliberately chosen because all three are hubs for inter and transdisciplinary research within the University of Pretoria and with the national and global research community. Professor Maharaj, Acting Vice Principal, Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Education, and also the Substantive Dean for the Engineering, Built Environment and Information Technology faculty, explains that while research undertaken in the Engineering 4.0 Hub has global application, it is specifically designed and developed for the African context, as much of the technology developed to date is from Europe, Japan, and the US. There's been keen interest in Engineering 4.0's research, development, and training from our academic colleagues in Southern Africa, in China, in the US, and in Europe, and we'll be engaging them and developing partnerships to take this work forward. Everything that Engineering 4.0 undertakes will include its impact on climate change, the environment, and how it contributes to achieving the SDGs. For example, research undertaken by our Vehicle Dynamics Group and the Center for Transport Development, which addresses such issues as exhaust-related emissions, tire materials, semi-autonomous and autonomous vehicles. Sustainability is front of mind, and the event today is about celebrating the road on many roads to a smart, sustainable future through our collaboration with SANRAL, the CSIR, the NRF, and all our academic and industry partners. We are working together to advance teaching and learning and research and innovation to achieve a brighter, smarter future for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Coupe. We really appreciate those words of welcome and context and background. And I must say, Prof. Coupe is a regular visitor to Engineering 4.0, and we always love to show him around and show the real work that is being conducted over here. Prof. Coupe, we know you've got a very busy program. It's graduations, the highlight for so many students and for the staff to see what is the throughput from the university. So after this short break, we will continue with the panel introduction and the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back now to the panel. And it's my pleasure this morning to introduce the panel to you. And I must say, it's something we started to get used to during COVID, that all our best plans need some resilience. So you will see that of the panel of 5 people, we are 2 people really in person here this morning, and everybody else is here virtually. It's a 5th wave, it's all of these important things, and therefore, let me start with the panel. Firstly, on the panel, we've got Mr. Louw Kannemeyer. He's the SANRAL Engineering Executive. Welcome, Louw. It's good to see you this morning, although it's virtually. Second up, we've got Ms. Heidi Harper. She's the SANRAL Head of Skills Development, also virtually joining us from Cape Town this morning.
Good morning,
Thirdly, I've
Fina.
got
Good morning,
at least
colleagues.
one colleague over here, Mr. Kenny Keyston. It's good to have a colleague in person. He is the Executive Cluster Manager for CSIR Smart Mobility. And then lastly, I've got a colleague, Mr. Abdul Esakji. He's the manager of the Engineering 4.0 facility, and he is also joining us virtually this morning. So with some of us here in person, some of us virtual, I would like to start off the discussion this morning with a question to Mr. Louw Kannemeyer. And Louw, the question, the statement is the following, and I would appreciate if you can respond to it. It says that the scarcity of civil engineering and other transportation engineering related skills places our economy on a back foot when it comes to infrastructure development. And through a partnership between the University of Pretoria, SANRAL and the CSIR, this Engineering 4.0 facility aims to address this issue by increasing the number of civil engineers, technologists and technicians skilled in transportation engineering to benefit the transport sector in South Africa as a whole. To what extent will the Engineering 4.0 facility benefit the transport sector? And I think in the light of the major efforts ongoing, mostly in KwaZulu-Natal, of rectifying the roads and the transportation networks again, it will be really interesting to hear your thoughts on it. Louw.
Yeah, thanks, Wynand. Yeah, we heard what the Vice Chancellor had to say in terms of the numbers, where in South Africa we're sitting with about 3,200 inhabitants per engineer, compared to 130 to 450. So I'm not going to repeat that, but if one look at the benefits from what we've attempted to achieve here with Engineering 4, I think one needs to look at the different components that it consists of. And I think we start off with the training laboratory. So I think the focus of the training laboratory, as the name says, is really on training. And here we're looking at obviously training engineers with the ability of the increased size, being able to accommodate larger practical classes. Then very importantly, training of material testers through the offering of courses to the industry, where large numbers of material testers are now able to be tested, which is a crucial component in terms of ensuring quality of construction on our construction sites. And then also very importantly, the independent certification of those material testers, like a trade test, which currently is not being performed in South Africa for quite some time at the moment. So once again here, that will ensure the minimum standards. So that is the core focus of the training laboratory. Then if we move on to the National Reference Laboratory, there one will see the core initiative there is once again for us to participate in international proficiency schemes of ASTRO and FIRL. So that will really enable what we test and report here in South Africa to be compared to international results, something that we've done more than 20 years ago. So this is quite an important initiative to re-establish that. Then the intention of the reference laboratory is obviously to then oversee the proficiency scheme for local commercial laboratories in South Africa. So that is then to ensure that those results coming from our commercial laboratories are able to tie back to international results, for example. Then, once again, a very important part of the reference laboratory is the testing of duplicate samples coming from our construction sites. So once again, that is the independent certification of the results. to ensure that what is being constructed is adhering to the specified specifications and once again ensuring a quality product for the taxpayer. And then obviously finally the reference lab will be involved in the certification of various pieces of equipment that is used to conduct surveys like road surface profilers, FWDs on our network to once again ensure a consistency of the data collected, as well as also the certification of various visual inspectors that are once again used to ensure a certain minimum standard. So that is really what the reference laboratory will be doing. Then if we move on to the research laboratories, which obviously consist of the cement and concrete laboratory here, and then obviously the advanced materials, bitumen granular at the CSIR, because remember that's where the other part is sitting. Those will really be focusing on researching, really looking at how we can best utilize local in situ materials, how we can ensure going forward that what we achieve in terms of our technology is moving ahead in terms of reducing the carbon footprint, better reutilization, recycling of materials, in terms of the whole drive that exists in terms of greening the transport sector, and both internationally as well as here in South Africa in terms of that. So that will be really from the research side. And obviously with that process, one will see obviously a lot more masters and PhD students being trained up, which will once again increase the skills pool to the industry and hopefully have quite a number of those people land up at the CSIR in terms of future research, which is very crucial because it's important to understand that our materials here in South Africa, Southern Africa are unique and do not necessarily compare to materials in the Northern Hemisphere. So it is quite crucial that we do perform our own research to be able to optimize the utilization of our own resources. Then if we take to the next facility that we have, which is the test tracks. And here specifically, there are two. The first one is the accelerated pavement test track. I think here, South Africa has been a pioneer in terms of accelerated pavement testing, and with the development of products like the heavy vehicle simulator and later on the mobile load simulator, which are manufactured and exported worldwide. They are in use from the United States, India, China, where a number of these accelerated pavement testing devices has been exported to. That really enables us to bridge the gap between the research in the laboratory and moving into a full-scale field example where we then use these devices that are able to apply 20 years of traffic in less than 3 months to then verify how would the theoretical research model perform in practice. And that has been the cornerstone of the South African infrastructure over the last 40 years. And that is what has enabled South Africa to build a network of roads, as we are aware and see out there, that are able to perform in terms of the local design standards. That is what resulted in the development of something like the G1 crushed stone layer, for example. So it's a crucial link between the lab in the field, which we've once again allowed for over here in terms of that. And then obviously the final facility we have here is the real-time test track, where once again, as you indicated, where we're looking at bridging the gap between smart mobility and moving from the lab. So here we're really looking at, we've built a track linking the N1 to the N4 on the ramp, where we were able to dedicate or assign the actual traffic moving. We were able then to instrument that track in future, specifically with the focus on smart sensors, to be able to then look at the interaction between the vehicles and the infrastructure. So really starting to look at that whole concept of smart mobility and the integration of sensors within the road surface and how those will be talking to the vehicles. So if one look at this holistic view that we had in mind, one will then see, as I said, the major benefits we will see is obviously increased numbers in terms of both engineers, material testers, also improve quality in terms of higher levels of training and education, masters and PhDs. In terms of that, the reference laboratory, I think, once again, improved quality, both in terms of laboratory testing as well as ensuring quality on construction sites. And then obviously research, hopefully there we will see then improved reuse of in situ materials, lowering cost and better performing materials that is coming from all of those. And that, as I said, holistically is what the objective was when we started this process. And hopefully, I think as we move forward and we actually start seeing the implementation and the functioning, that will be able to be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that clear and detailed response, Louw. I forgot in the beginning to ask our audience, you are welcome to pose questions to the panelists on your system. You'll see that there's a comment space. And getting to one of these questions that we received so far, specifically I think it's appropriate to you, Louw, is the statement that says we are happy about your work nationwide. And I think that's really, the national network is of really high quality. But the question is, why is SANRAL only doing good work on freeways? How about the town roads and the access roads and all of the other roads in the country? Would you like to respond to that, please, Louw?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that if one look at the Constitution of South Africa, one will see that the responsibility for looking after roads are assigned to three spheres. So at the national level, you have SANRAL, then you have your 9 provinces at the provincial level, and then you have your local municipality / district municipality / metropolitan at the local level. So SANRAL's mandate, as per our Act, is really limited to the proclaimed national road network. So that is why you'll see we're currently responsible for 22,262 kilometers of road. There are discussions at the moment ongoing to expand that to in the order of about 35,000 kilometers. So that is why SANRAL is directly involved in terms of our mandate at a national level only. But it's important to understand that we then go further, and a lot of what we do at a national level, we then convert into various national guidelines, the so-called technical recommendations for highways or technical methods for highways, that then enable the other spheres of government at a provincial and a local level to apply the same techniques, concepts, best practice that we apply at their level. So that is how we're then able to transfer what we do at a national level to assist at a provincial and at a local level. But yes, the bottom line is we are only directly responsible for the proclaimed national road network, and that's why one will see our impact being limited to that network on a day-to-day basis. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Louw. I think it's quite important for everybody to understand that broader picture. Now I would like to move to Mr. Abdul Essagji, who is the manager of this facility. Abdul, the question focuses on the 4th Industrial Revolution, and it indicates that it creates an opportunity for South Africa to fast-track the economy and societies towards a better future. And how do you see the Engineering 4.0 facility planning to leverage off 4IR and provide communities and society with these benefits? Abdul?
Thanks, Prof. And good morning to everybody who's attending the event in person as well as virtually. I think to start off with, let's just take a couple of minutes to unpack 4IR, or the 4th Industrial Revolution. So every industrial revolution is basically has a specific or salient technology that characterizes that industrial revolution, right? So for example, the first industrial revolution, you would use the advent of steam power or steam generation to characterize the technology which underpins the first industrial revolution. When you look at the second industrial revolution, you would look at electricity. Third industrial revolution, semiconductors. So that would be, what would have enabled computers, the internet, and so forth. Now, the fourth industrial revolution, what basically makes it unique compared to the previous industrial revolutions is the fusion of technologies. What this does is it kind of blurs the lines between your physical, your digital, as well as your biological spheres. Now, what effect does that actually now have on advancements, in terms of technological advancements and advancements of humanity in general? So specifically the fourth industrial revolution, there's three things that are advancing much quicker compared to what we've seen before. Firstly is the velocity. So when we speak about the velocity of advancement, we're talking about the speed of which breakthroughs actually come out through applying various technologies and through different research and development initiatives. So because now you can use a lot more advanced technologies compared to what was available before, you can iterate through things much faster. So the speed, the velocity refers to the speed at which technological advancements manifest itself, which kind of links to it being more of an exponential rate instead of a linear rate of advancement. The second thing that we speak of is the scope, right? What's nice about the fourth industrial revolution is it sort of colors outside of the lines when it comes to professions or fields or industries, right? So what that implies is that you now have a transdisciplinary landscape. So, for example, as soon as 5 years ago, it would be unheard of to find electronic or IoT equipment in a civil engineering laboratory. Whereas now, if you come to Engineering 4.0, you would see it almost looks like an electronics engineering lab, but people are actually doing research in civil engineering concepts using electronic devices. So that's where this whole transdisciplinarity concept comes in as a result of the fourth industrial revolution. Lastly, we talk about the impact. So in terms of the impact of the fourth industrial revolution, it has the potential to raise global income levels and improve the quality of lives. That's the positive impact or the positive potential that it has. Obviously, now we need to look at things on a negative side as well. And the risks that we see here is the risk of certain jobs or certain tasks becoming obsolete. Why? Because there's a potential of machines or automation to actually take over these jobs. Now, if we look at Engineering 4.0 as a facility, it's obviously a joint partnership between the University of Pretoria, the CSIR, as well as SANRAL. I'm going to be a little biased here and focus on University of Pretoria simply because it's a university and not because that's the logo of my payslip. I'm just going to focus on the University of Pretoria simply because it's a university. I'm going to then go to what are the three missions of a university. Firstly, it's for knowledge creation. Secondly, teaching and learning. And thirdly, for societal engagement. So if you look at the three missions of a university internationally, those are the three missions that would typically be part of what a university's function is. Now, if you look at the downstream effects of that, from knowledge creation, for example, it now goes into technological advancement, so or technology transfer. That's typically where the CSIR would fit in. And then uptake by industry of this new technology or of this new solution that's been developed. That's typically where an institution or an organization like SANRAL would fit in. So that's why I decided to start at the university and show how each thing manifests or gets, cascades itself down. Now, considering the fourth industrial revolution as well as what Engineering 4.0 has been premised on, I want to bring it a bit home a little bit further and refer to the PC4IR report that was published around October 2020 or early 2021. The first recommendation that is stated in that PC4IR report is investing in human capacity development. Specific to that is recommendation of, recommendation number one is the introduction of micro-learning to ensure that professional development is continuous and enables worker flexibility. So over and above what the university's 3 missions are, it's creating this nexus of integration between experiential learning and academic progression. So if you, when I talk about experiential learning, I'm talking about moving from training to certification to registration. And when I talk about academic progression, I'm talking about moving from your undergrad to your postgrad level of qualification. So what Engineering 4.0 is currently undertaking, or how they are adapting themselves to the 4th Industrial Revolution, rather than complying with the 4IR, is finding this nexus between experiential learning as well as academic progression. In essence, what that the outcome of that would be, you would have a graduate who has an academically sound underpinning coupled with experiential learning as well, which at the end of the day makes that individual integrate a lot better into the world of work. Thus obviously links back to the micro-learning / micro-credential recommendation, which is required in the era of the 4th Industrial Revolution, as well as what is required within the future world of work. So to answer the question, what the Engineering 4.0 as a facility is doing is, instead of becoming compliant with the 4th Industrial Revolution, meaning a tick box exercise to say, yes, we've got VR, yes, we've got artificial intelligence, yes, we're doing big data collection and big data analysis, we are rather adapting to what the 4th Industrial Revolution requires by using these technologies as enablers, so that the graduates and individuals who are trained at the facility are fast-tracked into integrating more comfortably into the future world of work by leveraging off the velocity, the impact, and what is the third one? The velocity, the scope, and the impact of what the 4th Industrial Revolution actually brings forward.
Abdul, thank you very much for that detailed response. And we've got an active audience this morning. There's 2 questions that actually both relate to this, and I think you will enjoy responding to them. The one question says, how are SMMEs going to be accommodated by SANRAL in these kind of facilities, especially in the so-called rural areas? And the other one that links with this is, you spoke of opportunity. Since we reside in KZN, the person that asked the question, how are we going to be part of these qualifications? You are in Pretoria, we are sitting in KZN. Similar question can come from Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape. Can you, in a sentence or 2, respond of how Engineering 4.0 and these opportunities can actually be beneficial to a little kid sitting over there looking for opportunities?
Okay, so I think I'm going to address both questions in one answer, specifically in terms of, how SMMEs are accommodated, and if you are outside of the Pretoria area, how would you actually benefit from these sorts of training? Again, like I've mentioned, is that we've used 4IR technologies as an enabler for us to adapt to what is required for the future world of work. Having said that, we are currently in the process of developing training content using virtual reality as our technology enabler. So what we would typically do is have a set of virtual reality goggles or kit available around the country, and you can then sign up for these training these training programs, and consume this the content and information using the VR goggles. The quality would be pretty much the same as what you would have experienced in person. And by using the VR goggles, essentially what you're doing is you are generating muscle memory, because obviously laboratory or being trained as a laboratory technician is a physical process. You need to do things with your hands. So using the VR solution, you then develop muscle memory so that at the point in time when you are comfortable with being certified, the physical environment becomes a lot more familiar to you, simply because you've used VR as a solution to simulate what you would have typically been exposed to in a physical environment.
Thank you very much for that, Abdul. Yes, I think the important part is the fact that we don't just tick off the boxes for 4IR, but it becomes part of our normal day-to-day stuff that we do. Using VR, not just to watch a movie or play a game, but actually to do the training. And I think it links to this question that I'll respond to. How do we engage our professional councils to recognize the skills of 4IR within the journey of professional works? I think what's important there, and we are sitting in the situation where University of Pretoria is doing our 5-yearly EXA accreditation this year. And if you look at the programs that's offered, not only by us, but all of the other universities, as well as the universities of technology, 4IR is becoming part of what we teach students on all levels. And that's quite important for me. It should not be an add-on somewhere. It should be part of what you are engaged in, because the moment you walk out of university and you go to our consultants and our contractors and our clients, you will realize that 4IR is a part of life. You cannot just add it on and switch it on and off as required. So thank you. I think it's quite an appropriate question. I would like to move on to a question to Ms. Heidi Harper. Heidi, the Engineering 4.0 facility focuses on providing a platform for quality training, reference testing and research in transportation engineering, and all of this within a state-of-the-art facility. My question is, how are these offerings aligned with the country's long-term needs and goals? Heidi?
Thanks, Wynand. Thanks for the opportunity. I think it's aligned very well with the overall South African goals. If you look at the National Development Plan, that sets out our strategy to eliminate poverty. And when we look at the particular goals of the MTSF, we look at access to education. We look at developing high education, high quality education. And we look at education that caters for different needs. So I think that the particular area which the facility looks at is extremely needed and 100% in support of our national development goals.
Thank you for that idea. I think it is a very important link that you made over there, that what is done on training and education levels for our engineers and technologists of the future is actually aligned to the National Development Program, because otherwise we've got a policy in the one direction, we've got action in another direction, and then we can never reach the point that we are looking for. I want to move over to my in-person guest for the next question. Kenny, the next question is, the positive effects of collaborations between government, industry, academia have been well researched and proven. We know that. The Engineering 4.0 facility is a very candid example of such a collaboration, as Prof. Kupe and Louw has mentioned. What makes the partnership between UP, CSIR and SANRAL a natural fit in this regard?
Okay, thank you, Prof, and good morning or good afternoon to the listeners and possibly some of the viewers. I'm going to try and be very brief in my response. I think it's quite clear, if one listened intently and carefully to the address by the Vice-Chancellor this morning, and he alluded to the issue around collaboration and the value that it brings to this kind of relationship, particularly at the point around saying we should not be duplicating efforts in this regard. I need not remind the audience, but just for the sake of just reminding us again, SANRAL's purpose, obviously, it's quite clear, it is to deliver a safe, efficient, reliable and resilient national road transportation system for the benefit of the country, for the commuting public of the country. And in my opinion, having traveled extensively in many countries, undoubtedly we have a very good or a first-class national road network system. And that's a significant accolade for the work that SANRAL has been engaged in. If one looks at the University of Pretoria as a public higher educational institutions, and for that matter other higher educational institution, they have an academic educational focus with associated research capabilities and facilities in transport infrastructure that can be used by the citizens of our country as well as our continent and internationally for the advancement of knowledge. If I turn my attention to the CSIR and particularly through the Smart Mobility Cluster, we have research facilities and personnel. The focus of the CSIR is on research, development and innovation. Now, through directed and particularly multidisciplinary research and technological innovation, the CSIR cooperates with principals from both the private and public sectors, and through this process we contribute to the improvement of the quality of life of the people of the Republic of South Africa. The CSIR is an entity that prides itself on collaboration. We have extensive collaboration with a number of principals and government entities and institutions both in the country, on the continent and internationally. I think it's a matter of record that the CSIR has huge collaboration partnership agreements with several countries all over the world, including other science entities and science councils. Historically, if I look at the question that you posed, historically the three institutions, University of Pretoria, particularly the EBIT faculty, the South African National Roads Agencies, the three institutions have been cooperating in the field of transportation, infrastructure, engineering and research. Now, recognizing the synergy and their close proximity, the three institutions some time ago, I think way back in 2015, 2016, the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Cheryl Delarey, the CEO of SANRAL then, Skumbuzo Makuzoma, as well as the CSIR through the CEO of the institution. Having realized this, the three institutions sought further alignment in partnering to establishing the Engineering 4.0 integrated laboratory facility with the aim to improve the transport infrastructure sector that is aligned to the needs of the country. Undoubtedly, in my mind, this facility will combine the capacity and capabilities of all three institutions to provide cutting-edge and the state-of-the-art research, development and innovation to the roads and transport sector of our country, which is very, very sorely needed. Let me pause there for a moment.
Kenny, thank you for that. I think it is quite important to show this relationship and to, as you have highlighted, Prof. Kupi also has highlighted, that you are generating a pipeline. Because I think that's also in the bigger picture, it's fine for us at the university to teach students the skills, to teach them the research skills, but they need some place to go. And for CSIR, who is our neighbors across the highway, you need persons that's got the skills to actually take up these challenges and continue with the research. So I think that combined effort, that's what's making us stronger as a country to actually respond to the questions like the road condition in KwaZulu-Natal at this stage, which is a dire requirement to do major, very quick, but also quality rehabilitation and maintenance to those facilities. So thank you for that. I think it makes a lot of sense. I would like to go to one of the questions again before I ask you a follow-up question. And this is one again addressed to the university, asking what is the university doing to ensure that the modern day civil engineers have the necessary skills beside core civil engineering skills. All of these tools that they need to, it's different than what was required in the past, and the person that asked the question indicated the curricula has remained largely unchanged. Now, thank you for the question. I think I should have sent it to some of our current students. it's really important to realize that yes, the core always need to be there. For civil engineering, I need to teach our students what is concrete, how does it work, what is asphalt, what is structures, and so on. But over the past 5 years plus, not only at University of Pretoria, also our fellow universities, the whole idea of data analytics, of incorporating data collection, of incorporating sensors into the systems that we are teaching has become much more important. And the balance is important because we don't want to teach civil engineers to become electronic engineers and they don't understand infrastructure. But the linkages are very strong, and in that regard, with us, for instance, we are using drones and LiDAR to do surveys. We incorporate that large sets of data into their data analytics. They need to be able to program to analyze that type of data. And their design projects and their research projects focuses a lot on how do you make use of 4IR and Society 5 in terms of your day-to-day work the moment you walk out of here. And I think that prepares them well for careers at consultants, contractors, but also at CSIR and SANRAL, because that's what you guys expect from us.
Correct.
Kenny, if I can ask you another question. Establishing a unified and a standardized set of processes is of utmost importance in order to really ensure quality and consistency. And again, especially if we look at fixing roads in the country, addressing issues that we've got, quality is so important. How does the Engineering 4.0 facility contribute towards this quality of what we are doing?
No, thank you for that, Prof. I think colleagues on the call will understand and appreciate that standardizing processes and systems and procedures are critical in the operation of any reputable organization and entity. I think quality and consistency is the hallmark of any reputable organization and institution. It creates trust and confidence and speaks to issues of legitimacy and credibility. And that's why we have these standards and processes that we put in place. Now, there are two aspects to this question. The one that deals with the capacity or the personnel part of it, and the other deals with the second part deals with the uniformity and standardization of processes within institutions and within particularly the laboratories that they operate and so on. Now, although international standards are available and are being applied to ensure quality, the road pavement industry has lacked high quality facilities that provide a platform for quality training and reference testing. And I think that's quite crucial, particularly when you're dealing with high level national facilities, high level impact that we need to make in our roads, particularly in our road sector industry. It has to stand up to what is called the scrutiny and availability. You spoke earlier on of, and I think Lo Kaname spoke earlier on of the facility that is operated by the CSR, the heavy vehicle simulator. That's one of the hallmarks that we use to test and put the roads infrastructure under scrutiny. Now, the Engineering 4.0 facility will seek to address these concerns by compliance and providing objective evidence that national laboratories are proficient and or competent to test for industry requirements and standards. Secondly, I think we need, and it's critical that we have independent verification of test results for the road projects that SANRAL and the rest of the country is engaged in. Thirdly, the training to address the current skills gaps and the accreditation of material testers is also quite crucial. And therefore, we see that this collaboration between the three entities is quite important. In my mind, it's undoubtedly indisputable for us to have this kind of thing. Fourthly, I think to re-establish the research, development and innovation competence in terms of people and as well as and the facilities. So in my mind, the Engineering 4.0 is meant to be it's meant to thoroughly and comprehensively comply to ISO standards and to coordinate and guide industry compliance in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that clear response, Kenny. I think you highlighted the importance of this quality aspects. And Abdul, I would like to put you a bit on the spot in that regard. If you can explain a bit to us very specifically around the proficiency testing and how does the facility put processes in place to make sure that the work that's being done over here, that we want to calibrate the whole of the country and the test results to international practice in terms of the proficiency testing, for instance, with AASHTO?
Sure. Thanks so much, Prof. So in terms of the proficiency testing that that is envisaged to take place at the National Reference Laboratory, this is one of the main reasons why we've got, we're leveraging of the partnership of the CSIR. So in terms of proficiency testing, of course, laboratories of this nature need to be accredited with against the ISO 17025 certification standard. One of the prerequisites or requirements for ISO 17025 accreditation is to be involved in a proficiency testing scheme. So in terms of Engineering 4.0's National Reference Laboratories, compliance with that requirement is our proficiency testing scheme participation, specifically with AASHTO, as well as the National Laboratory Association, which is the local South African proficiency testing body. Of course, one of the main reasons why you would want to be involved in a PT scheme is so that you can understand what is the consistency of your measurement equipment, what's the consistency of your technical staff who are carrying out these measurements, and almost to keep a sound handle or a sound finger on what is the variations that could typically occur within your laboratory's testing procedures and protocols. So yes, that's probably, that is one of the fundamental reasons as to why we are involved in the PT schemes. And of course, with the CSIR being involved as a, one of the technical partners in ensuring that we are, work towards the ISO 17025 accreditation, proficiency testing forms almost a fundamental part of being regarded as a reference laboratory, as well as working towards ISO 17025 accreditation.
Thank you very much for that, Abdul. The interesting logistical challenging part that you did not spend too much time on, because that will take us to this afternoon, is obviously that when you want to do these proficiency testing, it means that you need to get similar samples of your materials to whoever is the laboratories that takes part in this process. So within South Africa, as part of the National Laboratory Association, that means a lot of samples needs to be prepared at Engineering 4.0 and then transported to a range of laboratories. But in terms of the international proficiency, that also means you order materials from the US and Europe. You have to wait for that material, get it through customs before you can do the testing to make sure that we can actually be on par internationally. Thank you for that. I would like to now go over to Heidi again. Heidi, my question is, over the past decade, there has been much needed advocacy for females in the STEM field qualifications, the science and technology and mathematics and everything. How does the Engineering 4.0 facility promote and support this course?
Thanks, Wynand, for the question. I think it's been longer than 10 years where we focused on leveling the playing field for women in the industry, both in academia and in the civil engineering industry at large. From a SANRAL perspective, I can share some information regarding our educational programs. We have a scholarships program, which is focused at school leavers. And in that program, we have excellent ratios between boys and girls. The girls are on par, and in some years they surpass their male counterparts in terms of academic performance and in terms of numbers. What we have tracked is that at university level, the ratio between male and female students is not what it should be in terms of referencing the economically active population. So from a SANRAL perspective, we have an equity plan which targets women in the industry. It looks at leveling the playing fields, and it tracks and reports the data in terms of the various programs which we have. What 4.0 is doing is creating capacity. It's creating a facility and capacity to ensure training. And it's also going to ensure that the critical mass is developed, which is so, so dearly needed by the economy. Roads is a public good, and it is in the interest of all South Africans that we maintain our ability to have a transport system which works for communities, which works for individuals, and which works for the economy at large.
Heidi, thanks for that. I would like to link to that and say, I know at least at University of Pretoria, the total student population, that's a bit more than 50% of that is female students. However, once you get to the engineering school, we are sitting, depending on the disciplines, probably between about 20 and 30% of the population being female. So for sure, even with a lot of work that has been done so far, a lot of challenges to still address in that regard, because I think the diversity in transportation also means that the larger part of the population, which is females, are using a lot of transportation. And especially also if we are talking about public transportation systems and so on, it's important to have those insights and voices as part of the response to the problem. Any thoughts around that?
Yes, absolutely, Wynand. And I think what I really appreciate about the project is that you are targeting a variety of different levels within the industry, and you are providing opportunities for professional improvement at a variety of different levels. And that is absolutely critical. It's catering to a very broad spectrum of people who may have taken up jobs in the industry and who may wish to continue professional development. And that, I think, is a bonus, and it is a step in the right direction for the country.
I must at this point also give a shout out again for the team that developed Engineering 4.0. The main architect for Engineering 4.0 is a female architect, Marie Smith, and the facility actually won the award, the SAPOA Award, for the most innovative building in 2020. I don't think we need to emphasize it, but it's probably because there was a slightly different perspective to the design and the feeling of the building than if it's just you and me, Kenny, that decide this is what we need, this is what it looks like. So it's always important to have the diverse inputs and different ways of looking at things, of solving our infrastructure issues in the country. If I can go to some of our participants' questions at this stage, I've got a question that's posed: how can we reconfigure our owner's project requirements to ask for 4IR in project deliverables, the demand side of work? Louw, can I ask you to respond to that? In terms of the projects that comes out from SANRAL, how do you make sure that people don't miss the opportunities of 4IR?
Yeah, thanks, Wynand. Yeah, I think, if I look at it, it's to move the industry, specifically on the practical side. The construction industry has been known to be a very slow mover, very much like a dinosaur. So it is a challenge where it's a gradual process. So what you will see is we have systematically, through changes to our specifications, started introducing concepts like, for example, BIM, Building Information Modeling, which is very much on, say, the building side, but we're trying to move that into the road section side, which is a major drive internationally. So you'll see we've systematically started incorporating those requirements into our specifications, into our requirements for consultants, where previously we were happy with a straightforward 2D CAD drawing. We then moved to 3D CAD drawing. We're now migrating to BIM models, and there's a lot of work that is still required with regard to roads specifically, in terms of defining the elements and all of that. But I think with the ISO standards that are in place, we are working and driving in that direction, because that is really where we see the major benefit of ending up with your design being digital, how you construct it being digitally recorded in terms of your BIM, for example, and then very finally ending up with your digital twin that in the future enables you to properly maintain and manage it. So we have mapped out that vision, but it is a process of moving the industry at all levels through that cycle. And the challenge we have is specifically, I think, on the construction side, where in South Africa, our construction part is still not that advanced compared to what one would have seen, how it's moved, say, for example, in Europe in recent times. So we do have some catch up to do there, but we are actively pushing it systematically through our projects, our specifications. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Louw. Kenny, if I can ask you a similar question. With a lot of the cutting edge research that CSIR is involved in, how do you make sure that 4IR is not a box that's ticked off in a final report of, yes, we thought about this, but it's actually inculcated in terms of the way that CSIR addresses research questions in South and Southern Africa?
Yes, no, I think it's a matter of public record that the CSIR on a regular basis publishes its research reports, so that people all over the world can actually have access to some of the reports that we put out and some of the research findings that we have, that we make it available to the public so that they can actually scrutinize, they can actually be able to engage with those reports, they can have an opportunity to engage with the CSR colleagues, our researchers, our scientists, and people that are involved in all of this, the work that we do, particularly for the industry. There are a number of guidelines that we are called upon to improve and even rewrite in some instances, and we make those available on a regular basis to the industry, to the public at large, so that they can actually engage. And if there are any issues or challenges or questions that may arise, we are always open to engage with the public, so that we are able to then refine those processes and put them out there.
Thank you for that. I think it's a very, very important aspect to take care of. Another of the questions asks, how could we pilot data sharing practices to set standards that national entities can follow and eliminate rework and duplication of effort? And I think in this regard, it's important also to give a shout out to the research support that SANRAL is providing. SANRAL has for many years conducted and funded a large portion of the transportation-related research in this country. And very specifically, looking at this whole data sharing type of idea, one of the current research projects looking at accelerated pavement testing and long-term pavement performance projects actually also focuses on how can we put all of these databases together to make sure that we don't have 9 different provincial databases and 1 national database and 1 CSIR one and 2 university ones. And in the end, you've got all these loose pieces of data where an overall analysis and viewpoint of the data can actually support the development of answers to not only research questions, but real practical questions where somebody has got a pothole on their road or the asphalt fails or something happens, and that the large set of data can actually support better answers in that regard. So I think it's important to realize that SANRAL is not only doing some of the stuff that you see on the road, but they actually do a lot of real good solid support in terms of the research funding. Also for the universities, for CSIR, a lot of good efforts going into that regard. If I go to our next question, and Abdul, I would like you to start off with this again, is the question is, or the statement that the Engineering 4.0 facility is a first of its kind on the African continent. How will it be utilized to the benefit of the continent beyond the borders of South Africa and even beyond SADC? Because again, I think if we look at the benefits that we've got at UP, in Pretoria, in South Africa with Engineering 4.0 and related facilities, we must always remember we are sitting on or as part of a continent where a lot of development and training and teaching is required. Abdul, what is your thoughts?
Okay, so in terms of benefiting or the benefit of Engineering 4.0, spreading across the continent and related. So given that one of the main industrial partners of the Engineering 4.0 facility is SANRAL themselves, the first priority would be to ensure that SANRAL's requirements or SANRAL's needs are fulfilled by Engineering 4.0. That would obviously be the immediate requirement, or the immediate customer that Engineering 4.0 would typically service. Beyond that would be, other institutions or organizations in the South African economy who would be doing, work or offering services related to, SANRAL's activities or contracts and so forth. Expanded from there would be your South African neighboring countries. And lastly, in the almost fourth order of priority would be the rest of Africa. The reason why, I'm envisaging it like that is purely because of this law of diffusion of innovation. Given that, Engineering 4.0 as a facility is the first on the continent, it may take a bit of time for adoption en masse when you consider the continent as a whole. So you would obviously want to start off by capturing the first 18% of who would be recipients or beneficiaries of this type of facility. And then from there onward, it becomes a self-marketing or an offering that becomes sort of or that has movement based on its own momentum. So, in the order of priority then, we would see SANRAL as priority number 1, South African economy as priority number 2, neighboring countries number 3, and the rest of Africa as priority number 4.
Thank you for that, Abdul. Kenny, CSIR is involved in Africa for many years. Can I ask your viewpoint about how do we make sure that the benefits that we've got get to the rest of Africa, but also quite importantly, because we sometimes miss it, also learn from the rest of Africa in terms of what we do over here?
No, thank you for that question, Prof. If I may take us back a little bit, I think I was fortunate to be one of the participants in the sod turning ceremony initially when we identified the land for this facility. I also was fortunate to be part of the participation when we did the launch after this facility was built. The reason I refer to those events is I remember quite distinctly that both the previous Vice Chancellor as well as the current Vice Chancellor indicating that this facility is not only a South African facility, but it's a continental facility. It should serve the interests of our colleagues in the rest of Africa. And I think that point was made very clearly. Now, the CSR can certainly play a role in facilitating a process of dialogue and debate and discussion on how best we can achieve this. The CSR has an excellent footprint in Africa for many years. I think unquestionably, it's without doubt, everyone is aware of this. We've worked in countries like Malawi, we've worked in Mozambique, we've worked in Tanzania, we worked in Ghana, Uganda. Recently now we have a project in Ethiopia. So we have this kind of footprint where we engage with the colleagues in a number of these institutions throughout the African continent, and we're working with several professors and institutions and entities that are involved in roads related research. We've been asked by a number of the CEOs of these entities to come in and assist in setting up the laboratories for them, to set up the facilities for them, to assist them in terms of training and understanding how they go about undertaking this type of research. In addition, I think the previous CEO and myself were members of SANRAL, the Association of Southern African National Roads. I sat on the board of SANRAL for many years. We're involved with ARTREF, we're involved with AU NEPAD. So I think undoubtedly there's no question about this. We have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we engage with our colleagues in Africa so that we bring the cutting edge technologies that we pride ourselves in, also so that we can improve the work that they're doing. Recently, some of my staff were involved in an access road between Malawi and Tanzania. And I think it brought so much joy and relief to the population of that country that some of the research, some of the innovation, some of the cutting edge technologies that we pride ourselves in this country could be brought to those kinds of countries. We've also opened our doors to say that colleagues in those countries are welcome to visit the CSR to see what we're doing, and we hope that we can have the opportunity of bringing them to this facility so they also can catch sight of what is happening here, and they can take back the learning to their countries and improve. So I think without a doubt there is several opportunities for us to engage in this type of activities. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kenny. I can testify to the CSIR's footprint in Africa. 30 years ago, I can remember doing DCPs and test pits on roads in Malawi. And it's a good way of understanding what we've got in this country, what's available in the rest of Africa. And I think it's really a way of generating the momentum and making sure that we firstly teach students from the rest of Africa also, because those skills must go back into the rest of Africa. It doesn't help if all of the students from Africa comes to us, we train them well, and then they remain in South Africa. We must make sure that we build these links, build the research capacity, and then make sure that we keep that in terms of developing not only our local institutions and research and infrastructure, but that the links goes up back into the rest of Africa. There's another question, and Heidi, I would appreciate if you can respond to this one. And the question is, how could we perform more demonstrable events together so that the greater community can be exposed to this work and not just the experts? So often we've got journal papers, we've got conferences, and we've got the experts and specialists learning from each other, and that's quite important. But any ideas about how can we get this knowledge through to the normal communities?
SANRAL have a number of publications which are targeted at communities, and I think there is definitely an opportunity to showcase the material in our community-based papers. There's opportunities to showcase what we are doing on campuses and at career expos, and to develop material which is targeted at the man in the street, where we demystify the process of road building, and we are able to showcase the power of partnerships.
Thanks for that idea. I think that the other part, and it gives me the opportunity to mention, is that events like this that's organized by SANRAL, that's sponsored by SANRAL, the recording of this event will be available on the SANRAL website, on the UP website, on the CSIR website. So it's also not just a case of on Friday the 13th of May at 11 to 12 we share this information and then it's gone. It's one of the benefits of the post-COVID lessons that we've learned, that suddenly stuff remains available. So I would like to engage with the audience and ask the audience to make use of the opportunity. If you've got colleagues that need to see part of this, make sure that they access these resources. They are quite important to get access to. I think the other part that I would like to link to that And it's a very pertinent problem currently in the country is you ask about how to get the information not only to the specialists. We have to realize that a lot of the work that's being done in the transportation area is high-tech stresses and strains and really cutting-edge information, but then there are very practical outputs from this also. And for instance, this is the practical problem, is there's a lot of potholes on our road. And one of the major outcomes of research that CSIR has done is a manual of how to correctly fix potholes. And I would again really like to urge the audience, go onto the CSIR website, go and search for that guide. Because I see a lot of people who in communities want to solve problems, want to fix potholes, but they don't have the skills. So it's not only a high-tech journal that's sitting on the CSIR repositories in this case, but a real hands-on guideline that says, if you need to fix a pothole, this is how you address it, this is the procedures that you take. So, and it's important in terms of our education and training and research that we don't only focus on these cutting-edge, what will happen tomorrow type of questions, but the real stuff that affects communities on their day-to-day work life. Very important to address that. I'm sure you guys will be happy if there's more downloads of also this information.
No, certainly. Certainly we will welcome the opportunity. But also, may I add, if I may add, there's also a number of industry bodies and activities and events that are out there that actually provide participants, provide people that are in industry, provide colleagues that are in various institutions to actually engage. I mean, for example, if I look at an industry body like SABITA, we have the South African Road Federation, you have the RPF Forum, we have SATC. There's various platforms for which people can actually gain much knowledge and information to empower them to actually conduct the necessary work that they are engaged in or enhance the work that they are doing.
I think that's very important to understand that we did not start to share information in 2022. We've done this in cases like SATC. I think it's the 40th anniversary of SATC, the South African Transportation Conference this year. So a lot of information and research and knowledge and experience that's actually part of such an organization. And it is available. Again, if you go to the website, you can get the information, you can share the information, you can learn. Last question that I would like to address as we've got 3 or 4 minutes to go is the question about how could this collaboration develop shared digital laboratories for deployment in standard ways nationally, so that you've got digital assets, digital libraries, and I would like to respond to that, again linking to the current SANRAL research efforts. A lot of focus being placed on how to get data and experiences and learning from research available in a digital format so that it's accessible to everybody. That you don't have to have access to a very specific library with a very specific journal, but that you can start to ask the questions. The knowledge management and sharing system that's being developed as part of that research has got this whole emphasis and vision that anybody that's got a question about transportation solutions can go on it like a normal Google search and say, how do I do this on a road? And it will search through the knowledge database and come up with that type of responses. Not only what is published, but also linking to specialists in the areas to respond to these questions and get the answers. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are pretty much at the end of our time, and what I would like to ask, just to have a final summary, a 30-second version of any final thoughts. Louw, if I can start with you.
Yeah, I think, we've discussed in great detail what the intention was, and I think as we are able to roll out and move forward, I think we will hopefully be able to reap the fruits of what our vision was. And I think no doubtedly going forward, I think in the long term, we will see this collaborative approach that we embarked upon here with Engineering 4 reaping major benefits to the country as a whole, as well as the region. And specifically, as we've moved with the COVID age into a more digital environment, and we've become accustomed to being virtually at a place, it really opens up us so much more than the traditional physical approach that we've had. And I mean, we're already embarking on that with what we've indicated, the digital learning materials we're busy developing here, enabling people to remotely practice and train before they actually come to do, for example, their material testing. So definitely, I see us moving forward, and I see the country in the long term reaping major benefits from this collaborative effort. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lau. Kenny, your 30-second summary?
Okay, so without a shadow of doubt, I think this facility stands as a beacon, not only to South Africa, but to the colleagues in the continent, a beacon that sheds light on information, knowledge, research, and I think I can speak on behalf of all the principals to say that this facility is open. You are welcome to join us, to attend or visit this facility so that you can gather whatever information and knowledge, and we stand ready to support you in whatever efforts you have. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kenny. Abdul, your 30 seconds thoughts?
Thanks. So from my side, the summary is that the fourth industrial revolution came with its own unique disruption. And then COVID-19 came and disrupted that disruption again. Obviously, with all of these disruptions compounding itself, Engineering 4.0 positions itself in between all of this. Yeah? And, you know, with any sort of disruption, there's times of excitement and times of fear, you know, because of the uncertainty associated with it. I'm quite confident and comfortable that, you know, in terms of what Engineering 4.0 stands to represent and what it's mandated to deliver, there'll be more excitement than fear associated with it. So truly looking forward to what comes out of Engineering 4.0 as a facility, and obviously excited to see the direct beneficiaries of Engineering 4.0 reaping the benefits of what comes out from it.
Thank you for that, Abdul. I think our students that's currently busy preparing for a test week, partly in Engineering 4.0, is feeling that balance between fear, stress, and excitement working over here, but that's part of life. Heidi, the last word to you. Your 30-second summary of your thoughts.
I think 4 words: excitement, anticipation, progress, and overall hope. I believe that it's a step in the right direction, and we are moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A really good highlight summary, I think, of what we are looking at. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to say a few words of thanks. Firstly, I would like to thank the panelists, the 3 virtual panelists, the 1 in-person panelist, for your insights and opinions and time and continuous support in terms of this development. As has been mentioned a few times, Engineering 4.0 did not suddenly one day stand over here. It's a process that actively started in 2014, and it was concluded as a first phase of construction by February 2020, and then obviously the facility on its own doesn't mean much. You need to use it. That's when the use phase started. So, Lau, Kenny, Abdul, Heidi, thank you very much for your inputs, your insights. I appreciate that. Also, the team that did all the arrangements, Zora, you and your team, everybody that made it possible, that even though we've got hiccups in terms of not everybody sitting over here, that we can continue and people talk from the whole of the country and make sure that stuff actually happened. The whole AV team, the guys with the cameras and the lights and everything that makes it possible to actually share this opportunity much wider. Then also you as the audience. It was good to engage with you. It was good to see the questions, well thought out questions, and I hope and trust that you take this further and that this Friday the 13th experience is actually quite a good experience to you, and that you can think back to it and say, wow, I've learned something, I've picked up something. you're quite welcome to come and visit us. If you are in the vicinity, drop by, talk to us, come and see the world-class facilities that we've got available over here. And lastly, my thanks to the VC, Prof. Kupe, for his welcoming words, and also the fact that he sees Engineering 4.0 as one of the major transdisciplinary facilities on this campus. We actually host him and his visitors here on a very frequent basis. I think he knows more about roads and materials at this stage than any other VC on this campus has ever done. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope you've got a good rest of a Friday and a good weekend ahead. Thank you very much. Goodbye.